When a mother asks a simple question, she never imagines the answer will break her heart. I remember that afternoon as if it is happening right now. The sun was low, warm light filling the living room, and I was sitting there waiting for my son to visit with the woman he said he wanted to marry someday. I had spent the entire morning preparing his favorite food. The food he loved when he was a little boy who used to run around the kitchen with bare feet and dreams bigger than his tiny hands could hold. I never imagined that the boy who once held my hand to cross the street would grow up and walk into the house holding someone else's hand so tightly that he forgot mine existed. But mothers learn to accept this. That is the rule of nature. Still, no one prepares a mother for the moment when love becomes distance, when warmth becomes silence, when the child she raised with every beat of her heart begins to drift into a world where she is no longer the center, only a shadow at the edge. When they arrived, I welcomed them both with a smile. My son looked tired, almost nervous, as if he had been carrying a weight I could not see. And she, my daughter-in-law, beautiful, confident, polished, walked in with a grace that felt almost too sharp. She greeted me politely but without warmth. I brushed it aside. New relationships often need time, and I was willing to give all the time in the world. I asked the question every mother asks, the question filled with excitement, hope, and maybe a little fear. So when is the wedding? My voice was gentle, happy, eager to be included in their celebration, eager to imagine the day my son would stand under the lights, promising a new life with the woman he loved. But instead of smiling, instead of sharing the moment with me, she froze. Her lips trembled for just a moment, and then she said it. We got married yesterday. For a moment the world didn't move. The room became silent, as if all the air had been pulled out. My smile faded slowly, not because I was angry, but because I could not understand. I looked at my son. He looked away. His eyes did not meet mine. That was when the truth began to slip through the cracks of my heart. Not loud, not violent, but quietly, painfully, like a slow burn that never stops. I felt a sting behind my eyes but refused to let a single tear fall. Mothers do not cry in front of their children. Mothers hold the world together, even when the world they built begins to fall apart. I swallowed hard and whispered, "Yesterday?" She nodded. My son said nothing. Silence settled over us again. I asked them why. Why couldn't they tell me? Why was I not invited? Why did my son get married without the woman who raised him being there? Without the woman who held him through fevers, heartbreaks, nightmares, and victories? Why was I worth so little that the biggest moment of his life happened behind a closed door I was never allowed to open? My daughter-in-law looked at me, her posture stiff, her tone cold but steady. We wanted something small, simple, private. But her eyes told a different story. A story of fear. A story of secrecy. A story I was not meant to be part of. My son finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, it was her idea. She wanted to do it quickly." He didn't say the rest, but I heard it anyway. She didn't want you there. It wasn't anger I felt. It wasn't jealousy. It was grief, the deep, quiet grief of a mother who realizes she has become a stranger in her own child's life. I stood there holding myself together, nodding as if everything was fine, as if my heart wasn't slowly breaking piece by piece. But mothers see what others cannot. And I saw something in her eyes, fear. Why would she fear me? What was she hiding? Why was she so desperate to keep me away? The days that followed were different. My son stopped visiting as often. My calls went unanswered. Messages were read but ignored. The boy who once told me every detail of his life now barely gave me a single moment. But I didn't blame him. Love can blind. Love can pull. Love can silence the parts of you that once spoke loudly. I kept waiting, hoping things would change. Until one night, everything changed. My son called me, whispering urgently, "Mom, can I come over?" Alone. My heart tightened. Something was wrong. When he arrived, he looked exhausted, pale, as if he hadn't slept in days. He sat down and took a deep breath. "Mom, I need to tell you something. She didn't want you at the wedding because she didn't want you to know her past." He told me everything. How she had lied about her family. How she had debts she hid. How she manipulated situations to isolate him from everyone, including me. And then he said the words no mother wants to hear. "She made me choose between you and her. And I chose her. But I think I made a mistake." He cried. Not the loud cries of a child, but the silent tears of a grown man who finally sees the truth. I held his hands and whispered, "You are my son. Nothing you do can make me stop loving you." He sobbed harder. "Mom, I'm sorry I hurt you." Days later, the truth came out. My daughter-in-law wasn't the villain everyone thought. She had grown up unloved, unwanted, invisible. She feared losing my son because she had lost everyone else before him. So she controlled, she hid, she pushed me away. Not out of cruelty, but out of fear. And when she finally broke down and confessed, she said something I will never forget. "I thought if he stayed close to you, he would see how small I am, and he would leave me." When I heard that, my heart softened, because pain recognizes pain. And every woman carries a story behind her silence. I told her she didn't need to fight for my son's love by destroying his family. Love is not a war. Love is not a prison. Love is not fear. Love is freedom and honesty and holding on without choking the other person. She cried in my arms. My son held her hand, and for the first time, we became a family not built on secrets, but on truth. Families don't break because of mistakes. They break because no one talks about them. But when we speak, when we listen, healing becomes possible. Even when the wedding happened without me, even when the truth hurt, I learned one powerful thing. Love finds its way back. Even after being torn apart.